What's going on, everybody? This is episode 120 of the Standing Aid podcast. I'm Aaron Sorial from Los Angeles. Corny, the Burt Brown Sugar Tanner with me. What's up, Corny? Overseas. Always love talking boxing with you. And also Tiffany, just on time. The first lady.
Hey, slid in the home plate.
so so episode 120 should be some great boxing talk tonight. So we're first going to speak on four division four division champion Naoya Inoue, and most recently his fourth round knockout victory of Ye-joon, extending his undefeated record to 29-0, 26 knockouts, and more importantly, continuing his undisputed reign at super bantamweight. More importantly, he is one of the only three male boxers in history to become undisputed in two weight classes in the four belt era. Even more impressive is he is the first ever undisputed super bantamweight champion after his December 2023 knockout victory over Filipino former champion Marlon Tapales. So on the night of recently January 24th in Tokyo, Japan, at the Ariake Arena, Inoue faced replacement opponent Ye-joon of South Korea, who agreed to fight. Who agreed to take the fight under 2 weeks' notice after Australia's Sam Goodman reportedly suffered another cut injury in sparring, forcing him to pull out of the fight on a second rescheduled bout against Inoue. But that's another story. We could, depending on y'all's mood, we could talk about that too. But on that night, in the opening rounds prior to round 4, I remember Kim having some success with the southpaw stance and high guard, making it difficult for Inoue to land anything of significance early in the fight. Kim scored some nice counters and body shots, if I could remember. However, in round 4, Inoue, I guess he just stopped overthinking it and put that high pressure on Kim. He dismantled that high guard and it landed some nice some nice power shots, and even in the highlights you saw Kim try to bait him in, like, hey, give me some more, and he got it with a flush right hand, and he took him out of there. So Courtney, let's get your take, your biggest takeaways of that night for the monster.
Man, it's just great. It's just crazy and wild to keep seeing Inoue's progression. Through a guy who came up from 108. I remember when he beat Adrian Hernandez to win the WBC title at 108, coming out of nowhere to beating a guy who was basically straight hell at junior flyweight, and a dude he beat so comprehensively who was never heard from again. To be doing this at 122 and on the cusp of going up to featherweight and doing the same thing and being in the mention for fighting a guy like Gervonta Tank Davis, top 3 pound for pound. So a lot of people have him number 1. It's like I say, the top 3 between Crawford, Usyk, and Inoue is interchangeable. But just for a guy who started at that point to be where he is now, that's just insane, and that's just phenomenal. And just to see somebody taking their country on their back the way that they're doing, and it's not like Inoue is from a country with no boxing history. Japan is flying right now in terms of what they're doing in the lower divisions, and I mean the culture is just up right now in a way. Seeing a guy, whether the arena is 20,000 or packing the Tokyo Dome with 50, 60 plus thousand people, it's just insane, man. But the thing that impressed me about the fight with Kim is Kim came in short notice, with 2 weeks on 2 weeks notice, and a lot of times that can be a tricky proposition for people.
Yeah.
And especially when you're doing that on short notice facing a southpaw. Boxing gives us so many examples of guys who take short notice opponents who are southpaws and they either come out of there with the skin of their teeth, or they end up losing their title in major upsets. But and like you said, Kim was asking some pretty difficult questions at some points during the fight. But what's just impressive about Inoue is his ability to work through all that, and he does, and through all his skills and his attributes that we continually talk about with Inoue, it's his patience, and it's his ability to stay focused and hone in but stay focused, but not stay locked into one particular mode or game plan. And he does that better than anybody else that I'm seeing right now. Crawford, you can go 1A, 1A with Crawford, because Crawford does it extremely well also. But yeah, that's just a sheer example of it. And then when he stays focused, stays locked in with it, and then basically gets himself in a position where he's able to break Kim down. And as we were saying before we got on air, Inoue is not the person you want to wave in, especially when you're in the corner or your back's against the ropes, because I don't see anybody in boxing who finishes better than Inoue right now. And that's exactly what he did. And basically just taking care of business, man. Coming in short notice opponent. The guy, he went into 2 camps to train against. Basically leaves him hanging twice. And I know he was injured. That's not to impugn Goodman, because if he was cut, he was cut. But basically, that's gutting when you're going into a camp and you're expending so much of yourself mentally and physically, with the aim of fighting one person, and then at the last second, or 2 weeks out, you got to prep and be in that same mode for somebody significantly less about. But going in there against somebody who was unheralded and basically not playing with them, it was difficult at early on at the outset, a little tricky. But then he did what great fighters do. He figured it out, and he clocked him off the job early. So I'm just excited for what basically what this springboards in a way into with these next fights. He's coming, Bob Arum got in the ring afterwards and said he's bringing him to Vegas afterwards. Definitely overdue for Inoue to come back to the States. And I think they're floating the young Mexican fighter Picasso in there. That's not, I mean, I'll be invested to watch Inoue fight anybody. But really, if you at 122, I think the only real fight for him is AJ. I can't pronounce his name, Akhmadiev, or whatever. But I think that's the fight to make at 122. But and there's some prospects at 126. But really and truly, the only person I see being the real fight for Inoue at this point is a guy who's at 118, and that's Junto Nakatani.
Great stuff, Corny. And as you said, as for Kim, he had nothing to lose, and plus he has a style. He fights from a stance that Inoue barely sees. So he was, in my opinion, those were 2 things that Kim was gambling on, and given the circumstances, the gamble was worth it, even though it ended as early as it did. And as we discussed off air, he was trying to get his name out there, and his name was out there now. Not in the light that he wanted, but it's out there. Tiffany, your biggest takeaways from the Monsters' 4th round victory that night?
I kind of like what Courtney was saying, like a couple of points, but immediately I saw like Kim look smaller, like right off the rip. Like I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what to expect, but we had to remember that he was like in the top 15. So it wasn't like he was just like a top 100 opponent that in a way came in and destroyed. This guy was ranked. And I thought I foresee some problems. At first, I'm like, oh man, he's not hitting hard enough. Like he's not hitting them hard enough. And then, but then he would start, you know, connecting with some punches, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But like you said, when he started getting hit and he started egging him on, I'm like, oh no, that's not what you want to do. And then Inoue just went after him, and he finished him, and it was a good fight. And I also agree, and I brought this up to somebody else. The person I wanted to see him in a fight was Marajan Dalamayalev, or however you say his last name. He intrigues me. I see him on Instagram all the time, but a lot of people were saying that he had opportunities to fight him already, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But maybe they can make that fight happen. But Inoue is always fun to watch. Always like to watch his fights, and hopefully we get someone that can compete with him. Right now, it's not looking like we can find somebody that can actually compete. Who knocked him down? Somebody knocked him down, though.
That was Luis Nery.
That was Nery, yeah. That was like the only part that we seen when there was some vulnerability there. We're like, oh shit, and then he ended up getting knocked out anyway. But that was a great fight for Nery too. I don't know if Kim's name is gonna be out there, like you said, Aaron, like to where we want to see him again. I don't know. He reminded me of like an MMA fighter. I don't know. But yeah, it was a good fight from Inoue. I got up early in the morning and watched it against my body's wishes. But I'm glad I was able to get up in time and catch it because it was quick.
Great stuff, Tiffany. And you know, right after that fight, I remember Inoue saying to the effect of, you know, I'm even at my age, even at this juncture of my career, I'm still trying to get better. I'm still trying to get better, and he believes that there's still much more to improve, much more to discover, and also, and I'm actually quoting this. He quotes, "2025 is the year for me to go overseas to fight," as well, we both touched upon. And I quote again, "I'm planning to have a fight in Las Vegas and Saudi Arabia this year," which brings me to my next question, and I'll start with you, Tiffany. You know, it's great it's great we get to, us fans, especially us American folks, we get to see him here in stateside. But you know, I'm guessing this is only made possible because of Turkey. Because without Turkey's influence, you know, Inoue is content with just fighting for the rest of his career in Japan. So give us your thoughts on that, on the prospects of him fighting in the United States. Your whole take on that.
There's been some discussion. I don't know what the rules are over in Japan as far as testing is concerned. I don't know if they're more lax than like United States in their drug testing, but I heard a couple people mention something about maybe he's doing steroids. I don't put that out there. That's not me saying it, but potentially that's why he has a lot of the power that he has. So I'm interested to see how it's going to translate over into the United States when he has to go by our rules and our governing bodies and things of that nature. It could be nothing. He could still be the same powerhouse, kind of like how Manny Pacquiao just kept delivering, going up the ranks, going in, still knocking people out. He's still going to that. But I'm anxious to see him. I would love for him to get more fans and more fights in the United States. I feel like he'll be more mainstream than some of the other fighters and things like that. I didn't think he was on the juice. I heard, Steve, that's a potential. I don't know if he is or not. I don't do anything with juicing and things like that, but I heard that. So it's interesting to see if that power will still translate when he comes over. But hopefully if he comes over to the United States or to Saudi Arabia, that means that it's a big fight on the horizon, especially if he goes to Saudi Arabia. The money's behind him. Hopefully it's going to be somebody that like a marquee fight and not just run-of-the-mill fighter that he's fighting.
A follow-up to your question. If it's Saudi Arabia versus Vegas, in your opinion, do you think the testing in Saudi Arabia you think it would be more lax than it would be in Vegas? or just about the same?
So I would think so. I think everybody's different. I'm sure they have some global type of thing, but you know, like in the United States, we have several different testing that people go by, like beta and all that kind of stuff. Not to say he wouldn't do that or that he's a dirty fighter or anything like that. But it might be a little different when you go to different countries and what they like. Ukrainians, they might be different. You know, they be super duper strong, and I don't know what they taking over there. It might be some super vitamins, but they got some powerhouses over in the Ukraine. So I don't know what's going on over there. But it could be a little different. I don't know. Maybe Saudi Arabia might be different than United States.
Awesome, Tiffany. Courtney, anything you'd like to respond to? What
Yeah. You know, I know Tiffany is just quoting what's on the streets. You know, I just I think the talk of Inoue potentially might being on steroids. I think that's mute.
Yeah.
Simply for the fact that, I mean, in relation to the difference between testing in Japan and the States, is Inoue has fought in the States before. People forget about that because it was he fought in the he fought on a couple cards in the Superfly series that HBO had in their waning days. He was in a top ranked card in LA, and he came back during this the pandemic, the fight in the bubble in Vegas. Also, with him being a unified champion and one of his belts being a WBC championship, the WBC has all their champions under VADA year-round testing. So I think if there was anything to Inoue being on PEDs, I think that would have come about, or it would be being talked about a little more forcefully rather than the whispers you might hear out there. So I think that's mute. But in terms of the Saudi Arabia versus the States thing, Inoue said he's been wanting to get back to the States. It's just one of those things where Inoue didn't come to the States at the right moment. I think when he pretty much dipped his toe in it, he was still very much not the complete product of what he is right now. When he was on the Superfly cards and those top ranked cards, and then when he went back and then the bubble was just such a crazy and uncanny time. Even though, as some might remember, he turned in a great performance, great knockout against Maloney in the bubble when he was the last time he fought in the States. But you know, I mean, in terms of Saudi Arabia versus the United States, I don't think it matters. Even if he stays in Japan, I think American fans are like a little annoyed. Like Tiffany was saying, they got to wake up early. But typically, in a way, it knocks people out so quick you can just go back to sleep anyway. So, no, I mean, the thing is, when you got skills that pay the bills at the level of Inoue, that travels and that resonates. And if you don't necessarily travel, it's going to resonate as that people are going to follow. I've heard several instances of people, American boxing fans saying that they're going to go out, they're going to make that pilgrimage to Japan to go see him. Shout out to Roy Bennett. He lives in Hong Kong, but he's gotten on a plane a couple times and gone out to Japan to catch those just because he wanted to see Inoue, generational talent that much. But whether he comes back to the States, I think he said he wants to do that at the MGM Grand. I think with that back in the top rank behind him, they're definitely going to put together a card that's going to be a great support of him as a headliner, as a main event. We already know how Turkey gets down in Saudi Arabia with the cards that he's put on. Turkey is paying him $20 million just to have Riyadh Season on his trunks. So I think that speaks to the brand that Inoue is nowadays. In Inoue's mentality, where he turned in that type of performance in his last fight, and he's saying his aim is to get better. That lets you know he's in the right headspace. He's in the right mentality, because as you go up in weight and these fights get harder and you're fighting these bigger men, you're gonna have to get better. Even if you were on top in the top three, one of the top three slots in the pound for pound, him recognizing that there are things that he will need to do differently. Those things he'll need to do better. That he still has remaining room to grow physically and talent wise, and with his skill set. that's the proper mentality, and you're not at that level. You're not top 3, top 5 pound for pound if you don't have that mentality. And I think that's a mentality that Usyk and Crawford certainly have. So that lets you know he's got his mind right to where what he wants to do is aligned with what we want to see from him as fans. So
I like how his, like he has like he's very nice, you know what I mean? Like he's very respectful, very nice. I really like that about his mindset and his attitude, like the way they project themselves into the crowd and to his opponents. So he's got great sportsmanship.
Another question I want to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Corny. As Inoue gets deeper into these fights and as he gets older, what tendencies do you see in Inoue doing less of and doing more of as he continues to fight more of his mandatories at super bantamweight? If that question makes sense to you.
Can you expound on it?
To put it more simply, what are things that you envision him doing less of and doing more of?
I mean, in terms of boxing in the ring,
in terms of in the ring, yeah.
I think as he goes up in weight and he's fighting those top guys at 126 and potentially at 130 I think the fights are going to go longer. I don't think he's going to be dispatching guys as quickly as he was doing at 118, 122, and at the lower divisions. So I think those fights are going to go longer. I think we're going to see him become more defensively minded. He's going to have to be with guys who are coming in who are naturally bigger. Some who are just as fast as he is, and guys who just by virtue of physics are going to hit harder. Right. So I think Inoue is a guy we can see be cautious in there, but still be entertaining. And I think Inoue is a guy who is capable, even if the fights are going to go longer. I think he's capable of still, getting guys out of there. He'll just be doing it later in the fights, and I think he'll be doing it more. Kind of like how we see Crawford doing. It's like Crawford's not really a power punching one knockout guy. Crawford is a guy who goes in there and breaks you down, wears you down, and just beats you up into where saying like it's round 10, it's around 11, and the referee's looking to step in there because he's just getting off, and nothing's coming back. And I can see Inoue becoming that type of dude.
Same question to you, Tiffany, and I'll reword it for the sake of the viewers. What type of fighter do you eventually see Inoue becoming as he gets older, as he puts on more weight, as he traverses through potentially more weight divisions? In your view, Tiffany?
I definitely agree with Courtney. Age is definitely a factor too. You don't want to be at the end of your career taking a lot of punishment. So I feel like if he continues to move up and go to the higher weight classes, he'll be more cautious and more defensive minded. I don't think he's going to take a lot of punishment, but deep down, I feel like he's still going to try to finish. He has that tendency in him, but I think he'll just be a little bit more cautious with that. If the people could take his punches or if they're just as fast as him, the next person that's up there in that next weight class, I don't know if he's ready for him, but Shoe's up there in the next weight class, so that'll be a good test for both.
Brooklyn, right?
And Shoe's on Top Rank.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I think it's going to be a fight. Shout out to my boy Hayden Brady. He's also at 126. Is going to be a tough out up there. So I think the first person they're looking to go at 126 is Nick Ball. Who had some entertaining fight with Raymond Ford and took his title. So there's some there's some people who are going to slide a test with an answer sheet with some very hard test questions.
Nick Ball's
to
number
Inoue,
2.
so,
He's ranked number 2 right now. Nick Ball
yeah.
is.
So
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
And we know those guys coming out of England are, what I'm saying, they're dogs. Especially guys coming out of South England, Liverpool, like a Nick Ball is. Yeah. And the thing is with England, like Japan, that's such a deep fighting culture. There's so much reverence for the sport over there. Those are just guys who always come and bring it. So there's some good entertaining fights on the horizon at 126 for Inoue. And I'm still hoping I'm hoping he doesn't progress too far, too fast to where we never see him and Junto Nakatani go at it, because that's a huge fight. That's a huge fight domestically for Japan. But those who know that's just a good fight overall, because I see Nakatani being on a bit of the same trajectory that Inoue was when he was coming up from the smaller divisions.
You think Brandon Figueroa and Cool Boy Steph fighting? You think they're gonna rematch? Inoue gonna try to rematch Fulton?
No matter how good Fulton does in that fight, I just think Inoue beat him so comprehensively. I just think that I think there's not much of a demand or an interest in seeing that again. But I mean, if Fulton did return to form against Figueroa, because him and Figueroa, they fought an absolute slug match,
right?
When they met at 122. So let's say there's prospectively, Fulton goes in there and knocks Figueroa out, or just or just beat or just schools him with a unanimous decision or whatnot. I can't say it wouldn't be intriguing to see, to see that, but I just think as far as the TV heads, the casuals, they're not they're like, what is he doing? He already knocked that dude out. Why is he fighting him again? So I would just think they would go elsewhere. But I'd love to see Stephen Fulton return to form. But as I was telling Aaron before on air, is what I saw from Stephen Fulton in his last fight coming off the Inoue defeat. I didn't like what I saw, and I think it's very possible that Inoue might have taken something from him that he never gets, they'll never get back, just because of the way he beat him going in, and it's crazy because I was one of the few people who had predicted Fulton would win that fight against Inoue, and for Inoue to do, it wasn't beyond the pale that Inoue won that fight, but just the way Fulton, the way he did him, that was wild. So,
I want to shout out some other names at 126. We mentioned Brandon Figueroa, Nick Ball, and also Angelo Leo, another exciting champion at featherweight. He holds the IBF title. So many options, many potential matchups for Inoue, assuming he potentially moves up to 126. So great stuff.
And Angelo Leo is actually headed to Japan to fight to make his next title defense. So I mean, I think that might be a strategic move too, to get Angelo Leo used to fighting in Japan in front of the eyes of some of the Japanese audience. So I really wouldn't be surprised too if that's already strategically in the minds of the big guys over at Top Rank, to have him lined up for Inoue when he jumps up to 126.
Definitely. Great takes for both you, Courtney, the Burt Brown Sugar Tanner, and Tiffany Daniels, First Lady boxing. So let's jump on to the next topic. It's kind of like a continuation where we left off previously, where we gave our early impressions of David Benavidez versus David Morrell, two newly ingratiated members in the light heavyweight division. So they're going to be squaring off this upcoming Saturday, February 1st at T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas. PBC pay-per-view on Amazon Prime. We've seen the press conferences, a lot of heated words exchanged between those two. At one point, you seen David Morrell mimicking RoboCop, saying that's Benavidez style, and Benavidez saying and not so friendly words. I want to knock this MFR out. You're laughing. He's saying you're laughing. Yeah, you're laughing now, but come fight night, I'm knocking you the F out. In those sentiments. But let's get our let's get our latest thoughts on your previews. Tiffany, give us any update on how you see this fight going down between these two people, these two men who clearly have a very deep dislike for each other.
Shout out to my girl Emily Gurton. I know she's in Benavidez's camp. She's a manager. She does some PR stuff for him. That's my girl. But I'm rooting for David Morrell. Do I think he will win? I mean, I'm still up in the air. I still can't pick. But I'm rooting for Morrell to win. Whether or not I think he will win, it's kind of scary because he don't have that many fights, but he's very skilled. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want him to get knocked out. That's it. I don't know. And I know my boy Steve, he's definitely rooting for Morrell. So I know me and him are both on that Morrell take. I hope he wins. I hope it's a great fight, and I hope they both come out healthy and nobody gets severely hurt.
Yeah, the thing with Morrell, unfortunately for him, it's a small sample size in his boxing record to reference from. Looking at his record, 11 fights, undefeated. Very impressive though, relatively 9 knockouts of those 11 wins. But still, it's a big unknown. If I'm speaking about that fight from my viewpoint, the big question is can Morrell hurt Benavidez early? And because we've never seen Benavidez get hurt early in any of his fights, so will it be Morrell to do that with that crafty Cuban style? So that remains to be seen, and we'll find out this Saturday. But Courtney, last episode, you came in midstream. You gave us as much as you can on your assessment, but we have a lot of time. So, Corny, if you want to get any update to your assessment from that episode up to now, go ahead, Corny.
Yeah, just to add, to offer a counter perspective of what you're saying, he doesn't have to hurt Benavidez in order to beat him. And we've seen Benavidez baffled in there before. The first Ronald Gavril fight, I think that's the blueprint. I think that's the blueprint for basically beating Benavidez. And that same skill set that Ronald Gavril came in and gave Benavidez problems with, I think Morrell does that light years better than Gavril. I've never been afraid to come on air and make bold predictions. I've never been afraid to be on the boards on Facebook and make bold predictions. And a lot of time, and I'm not afraid because I'm also not afraid to come with it the next day and to rub the egg on my face or put a sock in my mouth. Like I've been wrong before. And I'll be wrong again, because that's just life. That's just being a human being and having an opinion and seeing things a certain way. So, like I said, I've made bold predictions, and when I make bold predictions, a lot of the times I knowingly and forcefully make those bold predictions. The last bold prediction I made here on air, I feel that was in that category of that bold prediction of like where people were like, I don't know, was the Demetrius Andrade, the Boo Boo Andrade fight. Say we all know how that went.
I remember.
But with me picking Morrell, this feels like back in the day when I told everybody who would listen that Chris Algieri would beat Provodnikov. This feels like back in the day when I told everybody who would listen that Sean Porter would meet his end against the Chocolate Brownie. um, and you know what I'm saying, that definitely happened. So my prediction for Morrell, it feels like, it feels like that. And for those who don't know what the hot chocolate brownie reference is, that's Kell Brook. um but yeah, this definitely feels like that, as opposed to me basically putting the Portuguese speaking community on my back with Boo Boo Andrade. So because the thing is, like, with how I'm seeing it. And I know the last episode, Coach GT, shout out to Coach GT, because he's already shouted me
Oh,
out.
he was like, Morrell?
He's already shouted me out. I love it. Um, but the thing is, I don't see, you know, with the RoboCop references. RoboCop was RoboCop because he was bulletproof. He was impenetrable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He was a robot. He was soulless. You know what I'm saying? RoboCop had no emotions about things. You know what I'm saying? RoboCop could barrel straight through. Um, we Benavidez is not bulletproof. Benavidez does have weak points. Benavidez is very emotional.
Yes.
Benavidez is emotional in every freaking fight. And I think, you know what I'm saying, and whether he's using that to an advantage or whatever. But also what I think tripping up Benavidez is, he say he doesn't overlook anybody. I think Benavidez is still fighting with this quasi chip on his shoulder, that he couldn't get Canelo in the ring.
Right.
And I think honestly, I don't think Morrell has said anything to him that anybody else hasn't said up to him in a run up, as far as shit talking in the run up to a fight. I just think he's taking it way. I think he's mad at Morrell because he can't be mad at Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying? I think he's mad at Morrell for not being Canelo. I think that's what that really is. And I think Morrell is smart enough to recognize that, and it's just like, all right, I'm gonna keep, I'm gonna keep egging you. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep freestyling this reggaeton at you in the run ups. You know what I'm saying? Like, Morrell threw his belt at him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for somebody to throw their belt at you, yes, that's particularly egregiously insulting. But Morrell was saying, like, I don't give a, I don't give a fuck about this secondary belt. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna use this as a weapon against you. Like, I just see things like that as far as the mental aspect of where I can give Morrell the advantage. But I mean, in terms of in the ring, I just see Morrell having a skill set and doing a lot of things that we've seen Benavidez have trouble with in the past. And I think that's ultimately gonna come to bear against him. So
That's
Right.
true, Jamie. That's true. Because
And
he gets so bad to where he going after the manager. He going after he don't have nothing else to say to Morrell. So now he's like, oh, that's why your manager make more than you do. It's crazy. What?
so let me just read this quote. Very great, very great quote from Mr. All Access, Jaime Garza. What's up, man? He says, I will say that I haven't seen Benavidez this bothered with the mind games leading up to a fight. He was snapping off at reporters all week. Yeah. He is
and Morrell keeps laughing at him.
yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And Morrell keeps laughing at him. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Morrell, he might, you know what? He might have to eat that garbage. You know what I'm saying? Hey, he might have to. Because you know what I'm saying, I've said all this. I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, but I've said all this, but I'm not saying that Benavidez is not dangerous, that Benavidez is not a killer. You know what I'm saying? And when you agitate a bull, you know what I'm saying, hey, you gotta deal with the consequences of that act. Hey,
Right.
so, you know what I'm saying, hey, if Morrell, you know what I'm saying, does, you know what I'm saying, hey, not only do I say I'm wrong, but it's like, hey, you know what I'm saying, Benavidez, you know what I'm saying, that ultimate junkyard dog, in there. But hey, like, these are multiple people saying it. If you snapping at reporters, if you snapping at the people who have no prospect of getting in the ring, like, why are you mad at them for? You know what I'm saying? And continually, every time we see Morrell with a camera in front of his face, he laughing at you. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that just hey, what, you know what I'm saying, we don't know what the outcome's gonna be in the ring, but the war of words has been won by Morrell.
Right. And Tommy was actually in Vegas, work related, but he had time to squeeze some of his free time to absorb all the Benavidez, Morrell atmosphere, and he states, I was just in Vegas all week up until a few hours ago and saw Benavidez myself, along with others. He did respond. A bit rude to one of my partners. But he was more pleasant when I saw him, though. So
I mean,
Tommy,
speaking of that, though, what the thing that we see, and we're not. I wouldn't classify myself a member of the press, but we're we're the punditry. We are that culture within boxing that has opinions. And the thing about Benavidez is where he's built is if you have ever said anything to the negative or the contrary of him before, he's done with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He Benavidez's maturity level is not where it's not where it is with most champions. Even what I'm saying, even Floyd, one of the most egotistical mofos in the sport, he buried the hatchet with what I'm saying, with Larry Merchant. You know what I'm saying? With Benavidez, he's that's not where he is, so in terms of him snapping on people with reporters and stuff like that, I think that with his personality, that ties into that a great deal.
So they probably hungry as hell too. They make a wait, man. They had to wait till the weigh-in. He hangry.
But Morrell's got to cut weight just like he does. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey,
right.
Morrell, you know what I'm saying? I've seen multiple videos. It's Morrell. It's just like, hey, you got a camera? Come here. Let me bust this freestyle. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, let me shout out all these 25 people I'm going to shout out to who are back in Cuba. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, a lot of times they say a happy warrior is a dangerous one. And if there's any truth to that, damn, Benavidez, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you mad, bro? Like, it was just like, what's really going on? But yeah, like, hey, he might be hungry.
I ain't saying nothing about that.
Hey, I missed it. What was said?
I'm in love with the coco. I get it for the low.
But yeah, it's we'll see. February 1st, it will be a great fight. That's for sure. The Cuban style and the relentless pressure and hand speed. Oh, exceptional hand speed that Benavidez will be expected to employ against the craftiness of Morrell. It'll be a sight to see. And but yeah, and great stuff, Courtney, Tiffany. Before we end it, any other wild card topic you want to speak on in this episode? We're only 45 minutes in, but we still have a few more minutes left. Tiffany, any other boxing topic that's been on your mind recently that you have a strong opinion about that you want to share on this episode? Go ahead, Courtney. Tiffany.
Before that, Benavidez, if you're watching, I am a fan. Do not go off for me in the press. See me out in the streets. I promise. I'll be nice. Okay. I guess I want to shout out. Nobody's really saying anything. It's not far from me, but Clarissa Shields is fighting on Sunday. It's a women's undisputed card. So she's headlining that in Flint, Michigan. That's about 5 hours north of me. I'm contemplating whether or not I want to make the drive or not. But nobody's really talking too much about it. I don't know if they just don't, like a lot of people are not concerned about women's sports, but you don't hear. Also, David Benavidez and them are fighting the night before, so I think it's kind of getting overshadowed a little bit. So shout out to Clarissa Shields. Good luck on your fight on Sunday.
Yeah, Clarissa Shields versus Danielle Perkins. The build up to this fight has been hilarious. They've been like fake fighting in the pressers, and then recently and today I saw a funny clip where Clarissa pulled up to Perkins' workout, and she was trolling her, but she took it well, and they were just like chopping it up like homegirls, and it was a fun sight to see. So
it's like WWE.
Yeah. Courtney, anything that's on your mind other than the agenda that you want to briefly speak on? Anything? Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I want to address the Clarissa Shields. You know what I'm saying? What Tiffany is saying about that. I think it's, it tears me up inside to see the level of hate that's just directed at Clarissa Shields.
Yeah.
And just, you know what I'm saying, like, you really see the double standard. You really see the double standard, not only in boxing, not only in athletics, but I think it's just an antithesis of what we see just against women in general in our society. And I'm not going to go up on this male feminist rant or whatever. Like, I get, I get it. People don't want to hear that, but I think it's worth mentioning though is, I'm saying, there's a lot of I read the comments on a lot of these Clarissa posts, and people just like, yo, I'm tired of her already. She's a clown. Listen. All right, she's gotten into some personal stuff with the love triangle, with the whole Remy Ma Papoose thing. Okay, we've seen various male boxers, go through breakups and go through that relationship drama. It's got for far less mention. We've seen other fighters in the run up to try to promote a fight do crazy ass antics. Tyson Fury, Shannon Briggs, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that stuff is cultural relevant meme status stuff. But when she's doing those same things, she's a clown. She's she's out there. She's for the streets. She's putting a black eye on the culture of boxing, or this is why women's boxing doesn't get any play. I just think it's bogus. I just think it's bullshit. And I think every excuse that comes to disparage Clarissa Shields is just basically people using that as cover in front to disparage how they feel about women and women in sports in general. And I think it's BS, and I think it needs to stop, and people just need to quit being hypocrites. And yeah, that, and there's a lot of people who are going to probably in a flying wig and say I'm trying to wear a cape because Clarissa Shields has been a guest in our show numerous times. It's regarded like that though. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm gonna call it for what it is and not how I want it to be. And that, that's just me calling the kettle black on that. I just think that's sad, and that's just ugly, and that's mean spirited. And as my old adage goes, that's why I love the sport of boxing, but I absolutely hate boxing fans. Yeah. But anyways, with that aside, one of the things I'm interested to see how it develops and how it pans out is the potential lawsuit settlement between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Turkey has come in and mediated that. I don't think the lawsuit has been officially dismissed, but I think it's been floated that as a condition to a possible rematch with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, that a lawsuit will have to be dropped, as well as them having to fight intern bouts. I like it. I like it. I don't think anybody wanted to see this go to a courtroom. I think it's pretty bizarre that we saw it go to a courtroom. If Devin Haney is going to get his lick back, he needs to do that in the ring.
Yeah.
And I think I like the way that it's being done in terms of them having intern fights on the road to them seeing each other again. And I think potentially it would be Rolly Rolando and Ryan Garcia. I don't think Rolly poses any type of a threat or serious threat to Ryan Garcia, but I think the run up to that is going to be social media gold, just because of the amount of shit they talk, and they're both pretty unstable mentally. And that's not to make light of anybody who's going through mental health, because they both have a history with that. I'm saying they're mentally unstable just because they're some freaking fools in front of a camera. So I think that's going to be entertaining on that aspect. And I think for Devin Haney with the intern match with Jose Ramirez, I that's not an easy fight at all for Devin Haney. So it's going to be interesting how from a mental perspective, he gets up for that fight and deals with that fight, because Jose Ramirez is going to be tough in there against Haney from a stylistic standpoint. So I'm just intrigued to see how that ultimately pans out, and if they can find a way back to each other in the ring to get it settled. So
How the heck did how did Devin Haney's luck get that he got to fight Ramirez and Ryan got to fight Rolly? Like, what the heck? I don't know. Rolly gets some good opportunities all the time.
hey, it's the business of boxing and the sports entertainment aspect of boxing. Very light on the sport, very heavy on the entertainment. But I mean, I think it's ironic. I mean, the Rolly and Ryan Garcia matchup is intriguing because of that entertainment aspect. And and when I say entertainment, that has little to do with what's going to go down in the ring. On the other side of it, the entertainment aspect between Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez is, we know that's going to be a good fight in the ring. Say Jose Ramirez is not a person I would want to fight coming off a loss.
A knockout loss like
that. Not going to want
that. So props to Devin Haney though. I think Devin Haney wanted the tougher draw in that, to let people know is like, yo, I'm that dude. And Devin Haney is very adamant that fight would have gone the opposite way had it not been influenced by Ryan Garcia taking PEDs and playing around with the scales the way he did. Personally, I'm gonna be real. I think Ryan Garcia could have come in drinking apple juice and eating Flintstone vitamins, and he still would have did him as dirty as he did. And I think Devin Haney and his father's reaction to that, as far as going, taking it to the courts and filing lawsuits and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, yo, I think they broke you mentally. You know what I'm saying? Yo, that the records got changed to a no contest. You got your donut restored. But you will always hold that L. You will always hold that L, and the only way you can get people to see that no contest asterisk on your record with any legitimacy is if you get back in the ring and you get your lick back against Ryan Garcia. So whether he can do that or not, that's why we watch the fights. That's why we have things to talk about in barbershops and on platforms like this. So I'm excited for that.
And don't wear those Ugg boots like Mr. Dillon said.
Great stuff. So that's going to be it for episode 120. I want to give a shout out to people in the chat. Very flooded, very nice. Thank you for the engagement, everybody. Shout out to Steven Ruiz, one of our mainstay panelists. Also, of course, Tommy Rush Jr., who just recently flew back from Vegas. Vivin Business, and also taking in the Benavidez Morrell atmosphere. Also, I want to Jaime All Access. That's what's up. Also Alvarez. He also made a prediction. I'm gonna pull it up for. Where was that at? No. A user from YouTube. He has Benavidez versus TKO 11th round. Thank you for your comment. Alvarez, shout out to you again, also in the chat. And everybody out there, all the viewers and listeners. But Tiffany, let me go to you. Any closing shout outs you want to give out? Closing thoughts before we end it?
Shout out to you, Aaron and Courtney, for being on today. All of our other panelists that couldn't make it, that's in the chat or back at home and busy. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Camp of the Greats, Coach GT's out there. And shout out to all the fighters that are at the Silver Gloves Nationals this week. I think they have finals tomorrow. So we had a few from my city that was there, some advancing, some are not. But shout out to all the young amateurs that's out there getting to it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Tiffany. Courtney, the Burt Brown Sugar Tanner. Any closing thoughts, shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, man.
Hey, shout out to yourself for basically just just making this canvas beautiful for us before we even start painting on it. Shout out to the First Lady of Boxing, Tiffany Daniels. Thank you for what you do in your community, and it's basically always putting it on for your local community, always putting it on for the kids in the inner city, always putting it on for youth and amateur boxing, and always putting it on for integrity in judging and officiating in the sport. We need that. Shout out to Coach GT, who was on with us last time. Shout out to Marcus Nall from Ohio Runs Boxing. Shout out to all our partners and all the platforms. It's like In Vivo. Say shout out to all the other the platforms. Shout out to Jimmy Blue. Shout out to Jaime Garza. Shout out to Mike Gomes. And shout out to everybody else, and particularly our international audience, who's just basically make this movement blow up as we continue to expand globally. We love y'all, and thank you so much for loving us. We're committed to keep on bringing you the best content possible in 2025.
On a similar note, as far as boxing media establishments, Will Montero from Sidestep Boxing, he has a new boxing podcast out. It's called The Deal Boxing Podcast, I believe, from by none other than Will Montero. So big shout out to you. Congrats on opening your new boxing podcast. Be sure to check him out. The Deal Boxing Podcast. That's what it is. So, and also shout out to all our usual partners and collaborators. Gary Kittleson, 3D Boxing Blog, Supreme Boxing, Just Boxing Foundation, and Vivo Boxing Podcast. Sorry if I forget other establishments off the top, but you know who you are. To all of our valuable listeners and viewers, thank you for supporting us throughout these years. I'm sure Courtney and Tiffany and Steven and Tommy share the same sentiments from all of us, all of you. Have a great night, everybody. This is episode 120. Also, one more thing. I know this is far off, but we have a very special guest, February 23rd on a Sunday. It's going to be hosted by Tommy and Steven. They're going to lead that interview, but more details to come in the weeks ahead. But February 23rd, that's on a Sunday, I believe. Very special guest. We can't reveal it now, but very exciting stuff coming up in the next month. But yeah, from all of us, all of you, episode 120 in the books. Have a good night, y'all. Peace.
Thanks.